Are you ready to double your real estate sales and grow your business like never before? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate Matters, hosted by Matt Curtis, leader of the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the last 6 years, with over 8,000 homes sold and more than 4,000 five-star reviews. Matt's proven strategies speak for themselves. Ready to double your sales with expert strategies? Let's dive in. This is Real Estate Matters. Let's get started.
Clark, the reality is most agents have already fired themselves this year and they don't even realize it.
Let's back up a second. What do you mean that agents have already fired themselves, even if they've had a good year, maybe?
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. So let's say you have a client and you decide not to show up today. What'd you decide? Let's say, our team, we have a runner that puts out our signs, does an amazing job, decides not to show up for work today. The agent does the deal, closing coordinator is their job to coordinate all the things. They just decide not to show up today. What do they decide to do? They decided to quit, basically, right? Because when you have a W-2 job or a client and you say you're going to show up and you don't show up, you don't get paid for not showing up, right? And you don't get the opportunity to stay with that job because, if these restaurants, down the street and if they just weren't open today because nobody showed up, you're going to stop going to the restaurants, right? That affects the relationship and the reputation of the company. But that's what agents do every single day. I'm not going to prospect today. They feel like they had the right to not do that and not get fired. They just fired themselves because it's 100% commission and they're not going to have anybody to work with. Even if they had so many clients to work with in Q1, they've effectively either given them a pay decrease or if they're brand new and just don't have any clients at all, they've effectively just quit.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's that W-2 mindset. It's like when you have new agents that come on, sometimes they just, it doesn't feel, it almost feels like it could be a break. And it's like, the reality is it shouldn't be that way because the prospecting is such an important part. Talk a little bit about knowing your numbers and some of the numbers that you look for agents to know and prospect in the future.
Well, it'd almost be better if they kept that W-2 mindset of like, hey, I got to show up at 8, and I'm going to stay here till at least 5 o'clock. But what happens is sometimes they just don't show up at all. And they don't realize that real estate is a long game. We've talked about this in a previous episode. Maybe coming from a different line of sales, they think, oh, well, I'm just going to show up today. I'm going to get a paycheck and do all these things. It just takes time in real estate. And it takes time for it not to show up too. Like if you prospect really well in Q2, you might have and you stop prospecting in Q2, you might have a decent Q2, but Q3 is going to be terrible. If you stop prospecting for 30 days, you've essentially just gotten out of real estate. Like you've got to just completely restart things. And so for us, we've got a championship culture. We've got a championship process. We know what it takes to win. We've got that flywheel spinning really fast. And so we know our numbers. Like any successful organization, like if you're an Alabama fan, Auburn fan, Alabama, they know their numbers. Like it's amazing, like all the practice and all the, like the stuff that they hook up to the gear and the helmets and stuff, like they analyze numbers. Like, is this athlete at peak condition right now? Like, all those things, they know their numbers. And so in real estate, you've got to know your numbers too. And we've been doing this long enough that agents don't have to recreate that. We know what it takes. On average, it's 150 calls per contract. It's not, if you're at 300, then something's off. And also it's about 25 conversations. So about 25 conversations per contract as well. And so, if you're not having any conversations, you're not going to get there. And so an agent that's making 100 calls, but they're not having any conversations, something's off. Like they're not connecting with the consumer. And so those are two big metrics that the agents need to look at. The other one too is it's about 6 appointments. If you're going on 20 appointments, like you're not doing, like the customer's not comfortable with you. Like there's something that's not going on, that's not happening right. But on average, it's going to be about 6 appointments as well. So those are like, you got to know your numbers. You got to know where you're at as well. What gets measured gets done. And so we have reporting systems for our agents so they can go and they can kind of measure their results to where they're at. Because unfortunately, like it used to be before all these digital systems, agents would track their calls. They'd like, write it down or, yeah, even before that, they wouldn't even write down. And you'd ask them like, hey, how many calls did you make today? Oh, I probably made 100 calls. And if you actually went back and looked at it and looked on their phone, it was like 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's that the ability to just say just calling until you actually have that appointment. As you were kind of talking about, I almost think of it as the agent needs to have their receipts. They need to know, hey, I sold something, so I have the final sell. Well, what were the things above? What were the line items that allowed me to get that?
Yeah.
And so if you know your receipts, you know how many calls, you know how many conversations, you know how many appointments, how many showings. That's your line items. Those are all the things and all the time spent to get that one sell.
Mhm.
And I think knowing your receipt's such a big thing. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that,
Well,
the sell itself.
yeah, I mean, it's it's the KPIs. Like, so you should be excited about the sale. That's the natural result. Like you should be obsessing about the calls and the conversations and the appointments. And I mean, what's the saying? I don't even know if this is a true thing or not, but an apple a day keeps the doctor away or whatever. I've never seen an agent not be successful getting an appointment a day. Like an appointment a day keeps the commission coming or whatever, whatever you want to say there. Um, like even if you're the worst agent, you're like the worst agent showing homes or meeting with a client. If you're in front of somebody every single day, you're going to be successful.
Mm.
And I think, the 150 calls, all those different things, all those different metrics are really, really good. If I'm on the phone, if I'm an agent, I'm not going to quit until I get that appointment. And if I get an appointment on my first call or I get an appointment on my 10th call, hey, it's a good day. Let's go for number 2. But if it's, it's everything's averages, right? Like, in basketball, you could be a 40% 3-point shooter. In some games, you might go 5 of 5. Some games, you might go 0 for 5. It's averages.
Mm.
Same thing with prospecting. Like some days, you might get 5 appointments. But I think the difference about real estate is you just can't be comfortable with 0.
Mm.
And that's the thing. Just keep calling. 150 calls. If you got to make that 151, if you got to go to 175, you got to go to 200. But if you have that discipline, you can't help but be successful.
Yeah, and that buying cycle for potential prospecting. Talk about, most of those sales don't even happen until 2 to 12 months. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long game.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of agents don't realize 84% of the leads that come in transact after the first month, 2 to 12 months. So if you decide, hey, I'm only going to work a lead or a future client is what you really should call them, is the first month. Yeah, I'm going to call them once, going to call them twice. I might call them up to day 30. A lot of agents give up after a week. Like, what's the statistic there? Like, what percentage of people actually buy the first week? Very, very few. Your career is just not going to be very good. And so it's really a long game. I know we've talked about previous episodes of like how to stay in touch. And so we create all these PDFs, buying and relocation, rent versus own. Space Command's a big thing in Huntsville, Space Command relocation, YouTube videos. We're just always trying to give our agents tools to be able to stay in touch and continue to add value. And as an agent, that's what you got to do. It's not a car lot. You're not just waiting for the next person to come on. And if they don't buy here, we're going to go buy down the street. Like literally, people will just take time buying a home because it's not something you do every day. And that's like the biggest mind shift I think a lot of agents need to take is that long game. 84% of people are not going to buy right now, but I still want to help those people.
Yeah, and I think, this is, like you said at the beginning, the reality is these agents are probably already firing themselves if they aren't doing the things that we just addressed. I mean, I think there's so much, the consistency, having the receipts, knowing your numbers, all play a key role in being successful in this business. And we've talked about in previous episodes, there's plenty of real estate agents that haven't sold a home in the last year. And so if you don't want to be that part of that statistic, knowing your numbers and doing these things and prospecting is a huge part to be successful and to get that airplane up in the air.
Yeah. I mean, you have to pick up the phone. I'm thinking, in the back of my mind right now about a salesperson that's trying to sell me something. They put together a proposal, like they try to sell me something for years. And I'm like, I'm ready. I'm actually ready to buy. And they sent me a proposal and I had some questions. We met on it. They sent me a follow-up proposal. Took a little bit of time. I was like, okay. And then I reviewed it, had just a couple questions. Call, hey, email, no pressure, no urgency. Just call me back when you can. But now it's been about a week. I haven't heard back. It's like the sale was ready. All you got to do is pick up the phone. And so it's not that complicated. As an agent, you just got to pick up the phone. You got to realize that 84% of people aren't going to be ready to buy right now. How can you add value for that customer, that person right now? And really just think about it as a long game. It's like you've got to you've just got to continue to pick up the phone and do it, even when you don't feel like it. Life is, you don't always get to do what you want to do. But if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want as well in life.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
That's a wrap for this episode of Real Estate Matters, helping you double your sales and build a thriving business. But real success is about impact. That's why Matt's team has built over 140 homes for families in Central America, changing lives beyond real estate. Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow agent. For more expert insights, visit mattcurtisrealestate.com or find us on social media at Matt Curtis Real Estate. See you next time on Real Estate Matters.